All right, so let's talk about a CSV. Let's talk about an actual file that we can use and one that we can use to set up our account overall. I'm going to move to a guide that is one of, I love the Canvas community. It's a great place for supplemental resources. It's good material that you can use long after you are done with training. It's a great area for you to become involved and active in the content. I like this guide in particular, and I do recommend copying it, opening it on a second screen, making it one of your favorites, because this is going to give you the file formats for your CSV content. It's probably the easiest way to bring it in, and it's also going to do so with some content that's already populated that you could upload today if you felt like it, or you could just use it as an example, make a copy and use it as an example. So the first one I wanted to jump into is I'm going to go down and find this accounts CSV. And this account CSV is where we're going through and setting up our this is where we're going to go through and set up our sub-accounts for our overall structure. You can see right now that this account CSV, you can see a bit of an example for it. And you can download an example by going to this link. I've set up an account CSV. Give me just 1 second to find that page. I've set up an account CSV that I use for my own accounts. Easy enough to do. This is how I set up my overall account structure. Took a little bit of planning, a little bit of mapping, just a little bit of time to get used to it. As you can see for mine, I'm working from 2 primary sub-accounts, A1, A2. A1 for me, and you could go on and on with that information, the account ID. A1 is my School of, what is that? School of the Ages. And then the other one is Department of Public Policy. I should probably change those names to something something a little bit better, a little bit more fun to be able to work with. Public-facing content. We'll just call it that. We'll strip it down, and I'm going to save this CSV. Essentially, what you're working through with this content is you need to make sure that you do have that account ID. The parent account ID, this is really tying what would be a sub-account to the main sub-account. I have 2 main sub-accounts, and then I have sub-accounts within that structure. And I can tie those courses of specific sub-accounts by using some of these links. So I've actually gone a few layers deep with this sub-account if you take a look at it. If I were to run this, let me minimize this. When I move over into my course in my account area, let me go into the School of History. If I were to run it, I'm going to go to my sub-accounts. It would affect the look of these sub-accounts. Ooh, the dreaded manually created courses that will automatically appear. It's not dreaded. So here are my 2 main accounts, School of History and then School of the Department of Public Policy and the School of the Ages. This is going to be my public-facing courses. So I can grab that information, fill it out, and then when I want to bring it into my courses, I'm going to be working through my SIS import. And what I can do within my SIS import is I can actually bring this content in. Let me go find that one more time and make sure that I've actually saved it. There it is down there. Sorry about the in and out with the screen. I can save that and I can bring it in by choosing the file that I want to bring in. You like that I have a file called Fake Students? Now, when I do bring it in, I do have a couple options, and I want to just let you know a little bit about these options as I go and approach this content. The reason I want to bring in these options is so that you know what you probably should avoid. The support team will tell you that this is a full batch update is called what they call the nuclear option in Canvas. The reason support will say that is because if you do a full batch import, what you're going to do is override existing content. So don't do that unless you're at the very beginning, or if you want to wipe out your content, maybe talk to somebody in support before you go that route. Now, there is kind of a structure when it comes to how content is manipulated in Canvas. Manipulate is probably not the best word, but I'm using it nonetheless. When I'm talking about the manipulated content in Canvas, what I'm talking about is that if we're doing some manual changes will override CSV changes. Although and that's why it's called UI changes. Although we have the ability to override that, and we have two controls. We can clear the UI change states, which would kind of bring it back to 0, or we can process it as a UI change, saying this is going to override the existing contents. We do have that in place. Now, one of the reasons why I'm advocating for structuring your account early on is so that you're not going to be dealing with too many UI changes along the way, or hopefully you don't have to do too many UI changes along the way. We build the structure. We don't have to negate items that are downstream, so to speak. So since I found this, I'm going to bring it in as an import type, and I'm going to be doing so as a CSV file, and then I'm going to process that data and bring it in. Now, a couple key items to remember as we do take a look at this content, and as we go through and update this content. Look at that, it changed to public-facing content from whatever it was before. A couple things that we need to remember as we look at this content, and we'll see it in play with some of the other accounts, a little bit more granular with some of the other uploads, is that there are going to be sticky fields. These are fields that we must have included with our content that we are bringing in. Will be required, say, for the uploads, the account CSV uploads, we must have an account ID. We must have an parent account ID with the exception of the main accounts. This is going to be a place for the nested accounts. We must have a name, and we must have a status for it. Status is nice because it's how we can remove a sub-account if so desired. And we'll see this come to play a little bit more. But for now, we're actually going to go to an activity where I would like you to at least go through some of that process. Go through either Excel or Google Sheets. Probably the best way to first go through and download the CSV, then go through Google Fields or Google Sheets, and then copy the required fields for sub-accounts, and then add data and save as a .csv file. All right, I'm going to place myself on mute while you work through this activity. If you do have questions, either chat us on the side or throw them in the chat area. When you're ready to continue, please hit yes in the